had crazy things happening to you. I'm the one that's in the fight, but you had lifelong friends basically calling me a terrorist and a Nazi, and people that you've known for 30 years.
I've had to block phone numbers, and I've deleted all social media from my phone, and which that I should have done anyway. Probably everybody should do that. But yeah, I went through a lot of bullshit around the time of the election and in the months following it, because I think when you publicly came out and said that you were voting for Trump, that was when it was like the gloves came off for anybody that had been tolerating our political evolution at that time. I'm David Janet, and somehow for the second time, I have been tricked into interviewing New York Times bestselling author Dave Rubin, host of the new book, Don't Burn This Country. Dave Rubin, welcome to your show.
Thank you. It's good to be here. More importantly, Clyde is here, so I'm going to be upstaged on my own show by the host and the dog. That's how it's going to work.
It was part of my contract. I wasn't doing this unless he did it with me.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, was Emma with us last time we did this, or was Clyde?
Emma had just passed away right before.
So was he with us?
We put her down, unfortunately, on February 11th, 2020. And the book came out in April of 2020. We had just got Clyde because that's when the lockdowns were starting.
Right.
And we didn't want a dog for a while, but we saved this guy.
At that time, I'm guessing he wasn't in the studio with us because he would have.
No, he was eating. Well, he was eating everything, including the first copy of Don't Burn This Book.
Right.
But this is very exciting. We're in our new house.
We're in a new house.
We're in the living room here.
We're in a new state.
Yeah.
We're in Florida.
Yeah. The free state of Florida.
Our entire life is different. Everything about it is different.
Yeah. So what is it that you want to talk about today? What can I do for you?
I wanted to jump off with what I think is the most interesting thing, actually, which is that last time I interviewed you and we were sitting down, Don't Burn This Book was what we were promoting. And at that time, you were defending classical liberal values, and I was defending classical liberal values, and we still are defending classical liberal values, but we were not identifying really as conservative at the time. And I think that has been probably the biggest shift culturally for us. So I wanted to ask you, what was the turning point for you when you finally felt confident and comfortable to start saying, I, Dave Rubin, a gay Northeast Jew, am a conservative?
First off, you're a fine host. Excellent question.
Thank you.
Very direct, clear, concise, little past context. Very nice.
Well, I talked to you everything you know. So.
You may also want to mention that we're going to do part of this on YouTube and Rumble publicly. The rest will be a Locals exclusive.
We're going to be doing part of this on Rumble and Locals exclusively, and the rest is going to be...
It's going to be exclusive on Locals, but we'll
exclusive
have a clip
on Locals with just a little bit for the whole world to see on YouTube.
There you go. Okay. Well, it's funny because when we met, we've been together, like 42 years or something crazy.
43.
It's been a long time, I'm losing count. But no, we've been together for like
13 years.
Yeah, 13 years, something like that. And when we first met in New York City, and you were not political at all, and I was less political, but I was always somewhat political, we would be joking because you were always like, you didn't have a credit card at first. You didn't understand that, like, how could you spend money you didn't have? And
I didn't want a credit card because I didn't understand the concept of it.
Right. And
I thought everybody else was insane.
Right. And I was always like, you're a Republican. You're a Republican because you think you should only spend what you have and all these things.
Right. I didn't know that you could spend money you didn't have.
Like
my parents never told me that.
The concept was like completely insane to you.
I just thought everyone I knew had so much more money than I did, which was mostly the case too.
Right. So like that was our running joke, right? Like it was like, oh, I was always like, you're a little Republican. Right. Scary. But then, over the course of the couple of years of writing that book and leaving the left and getting nothing but hate from the supposed liberals.
Right.
And geting really...
Losing all of our friends, basically.
Losing pretty much all of our friends, which it was
losing some family.
Losing some family too, yeah. Or at least temporarily losing some family. I always try to leave the door open for some of these people. At least the ones we like more, you know what I mean? That's naturally. But it was that road. We were just kind of going down the road together. And then I think what happened was, as some people got shed out of our lives, then these other doors opened. And suddenly we were really like, look who some of our best friends have been over the last couple of years. Who have we had over for dinner? Probably more than anyone else. It's Dennis Prager and his wife, Sue. It's
Right.
Larry Elder and his lady friend Nina.
Candace.
It's Candace Owens and George. It's that whole crew of people that we were told were the bad guys, who actually were nothing but nice and loving and tolerant and wonderful. And I think that kind of moved it for us, at least for me. But why don't you answer that question yourself?
I would say for me that even by the time that we were promoting Don't Burn This Book, I think we both really knew in our hearts at that point that it wasn't going to be much longer that we were going to be able to say that we weren't left, we weren't right, we weren't, we were our own thing. But the truth is that I think when Trump lost, we already, we voted for Trump, which was very different in 2020 versus 2016.
I can't believe I married a right-wing maniac.
We voted for Trump, but I think when he lost, that's when it was like, okay, screw this. Like, this fight is way more important than, for me anyway, way more important than feeling judged or being afraid of losing anybody that I was so desperately trying to not lose in my life, and saying, yes, I'm a conservative. It isn't what you think it is. I don't need to defend myself to you anymore. I don't care what you think anymore. And for me, that was it. I think Trump losing was when I finally realized, okay, well, I can't afford to be coy about this anymore. And
you had crazy things happening to you. I'm the one that's in the fight, but you had lifelong friends basically calling me a terrorist and a Nazi, and people that you've known for 30 years.
I've had to block phone numbers, and I've deleted all social media from my phone, and which I should have done anyway. Probably everybody should do that. But yeah, I went through a lot of bullshit around the time of the election and in the months following it, because I think when you publicly came out and said that you were voting for Trump, that was when it was like the gloves came off for anybody that had been tolerating our political evolution at that time.
And that was September of 2020.
Yeah.
Because remember, it was around
This is before COVID.
No. It wasn't before COVID. That was
it wasn't before COVID.
Yeah, it wasn't before COVID.
The whole reason I did this interview with you in the first place is because we were quarantined.
Right.
So 2 weeks to flatten the curve.
If you remember, we went out to brunch one day in LA with Douglas Murray and a friend of his. And we were driving home and we saw that Trump rally in Beverly Hills, and we had never been to one.
Right.
We go and it was like the happiest, most joyous. You actually said that it was the closest thing you had ever seen to a gay pride parade.
No, what I know.
In the good sense of now people think of them in the whole thing.
What I said was it reminded me of the first time I ever went to a gay bar, which now I can't even imagine ever going to a gay bar.
Yeah.
But at that time in my life, at, I don't know, 19.
Would we even be allowed in a gay bar? I would never want to go to a gay
maybe
bar.
In Florida. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's what it felt like, because it was just people of all ages, all races. It wasn't just conservative. It was anybody that wasn't identifying with the woke thing. And I felt like for the first time I was able to actually be myself in the real way, because everybody around me I knew didn't care what I thought. The fact that I was there was enough.
You have a good line on conservatives and sort of why you can consider yourself a conservative, because I think in some ways you're better at converting people than I am. People think I'm the gateway from the liberals to the conservatives or something like that. But you get asked this all the time. We had the woman who's helping us do some interior design in the house. She sort of figured out who I was after a little Googling. And then she kind of whispered to you. Now, I wasn't even there.
Right. She waited for you to leave, and she basically said, by the way, we know you're conservative, but don't worry, we don't know anything else. And I said, what do you think that means?
You're like, you don't know where the bodies are buried,
And she goes, well, I'm guessing, I'm guessing you like Trump. And I said, perhaps, but I was like, she goes, I shouldn't ask this, but how does that work? How does that work, being gay and being conservative, and not just being gay and being conservative, but liking Trump? And I said to her, I was like, well, I'll ask you a question. I said, what do you think my views on fiscal policy have anything to do with the person that I love? And she was like, fair, true. And I said, well, what do you think my views on foreign policy have anything to do with the person I love? What do you think my views on gun control? What do you think my views on school choice have anything to do with the person that I love? And she was like, I've never thought about it that way before. I never thought about it in those terms.
Isn't it funny? It's so easy to deprogram these people if you just are kind of
decent about it. Like, what are you? I said to her, what is your views on school choice?
Yeah.
Or on parenting at this point? Or on taxation? Is probably the best one. What is your views on taxation? Have anything to do with the person that you married? And she has nothing. She has no answer.
Yeah.
But honestly, in that moment, she was like, her whole world exploded.
Yeah, and it's fun when you could see
She
that.
was like dazed walking out the front door. That wasn't even my intention.
Yeah, and then by the end, didn't she admit she was a little more conservative than maybe she was leading on, or something?
Maybe
to
because
that
then they want
effect?
you to think that they want you to think that they're like cool with you or whatever.
Yeah.
I think one of the differences between us is that I actually, and maybe I'm wrong, but I actually have no desire to change anybody's mind in those situations.
No.
I don't need her to walk out of my house feeling any differently about anything. I just want to live my life. The libertarian in me just wants to be left alone, and I just want to leave other people alone.